Hello, Mantas. Today we're going to be talking about the Middle Ages. Our learning intentions today. By the end of this PowerPoint, you will know the three stages of the Middle Ages, what they were. You'll know some of the key events from the topic. You'll be able to define several key terms. You'll also know the event the unit focuses upon. What was the Middle Ages? The Middle Ages was the period of European history between 500 AD and 1500 AD. Other names for this period include the Dark Ages and the Age of Rebellion. The most common name for this period is the medieval period. Medieval is the Latin term for the Middle Ages. It comes from the same word that gave us median in mathematics. Looking at the names given by historians to the years 500 to 1500, what assumptions might we make about life in this period? The early Middle Ages, 550 to 1000 AD or CE. Key events: the end of the Roman Empire, the rise of Islam, the rule of barbarian kings. Charlemagne created the Carolingian Empire. Europe is terrified by waves of invaders. The emergence of knights and feudalism. The beginning of the Middle. The Middle Ages begins with the fall of the Roman Empire in 476. The Romans had ruled provinces in Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa for nearly 1,000 years. Challenges to Roman security increased during the first century, like 0 to 100 AD, as tribes from Germania, or Germany, began to confront the Romans. Division of Rome. One of the consequences of the weakening of Rome was the division of the Roman Empire. This was intended to make governing easier. In 376 AD, the empire was divided into two: the Western Roman Empire, capital city of Rome, the Eastern Roman Empire, capital city of Constantinople. You see here, it took up still the whole Mediterranean. The Barbarians take over. By the end of the 400s, Rome had been weakened by political instability. Roman legions were stretched thin across an empire that was becoming too large to defend easily. German tribes such as the Goths, Visigoths, Vandals, Angles, and Saxons took advantage of the weakness. In 476, the Visigoths' king Odovacar removed the last Western Roman ruler from power. Rome's great legacy. Christianity. The barbarians desired the farmlands from Rome. The barbarians desired the farmlands, roads, and wealth of the Western Roman Empire. The unintended consequences of conquest was the tribes spread the Christian faith throughout all of the peoples of Europe. Rome's official religion since 395 had been Christianity. This ended nearly 3 centuries of persecution of Christians, including being burned alive, crucified, and thrown into the gladiatorial arenas. There was only one recognized church, the Roman Catholic. The Pope is the head of the church. Rome's greatest legacy, Christianity. Christianity became the official religion of Rome following the conversion of Emperor Constantine in 312. Constantine converted after he claimed to experience a vision of a flaming cross in the sky before a battle. He promised to convert to Christianity and succeeded in the battle. Some historians argue that the real reason was to secure the loyalty of Christians in the army, who were becoming a significant and influential group. The rise of Islam. Christianity had started as an obscure Jewish sect following religion with a small number of followers. The conversion of Constantine and the barbarian conquerors ensured that it defined European culture throughout the Middle Ages. 24 years after the fall of Western Rome, a religious leader was born in Saudi Arabia whose vision would challenge the Christian worldview: Muhammad. This is the Islamic Empire. Expansion under Muhammad from 622 to 632. Expansion during the period 632 to 661. Expansion during the period of 661 to 750. It just continued to expand farther and farther away from Saudi Arabia where it started. The spread of Islam. Muhammad was the prophet of the faith of Islam. The Islamic holy book, called the Quran, was the final authority of faith and lifestyle for the followers of Islam. It was recited by Muhammad after receiving a vision from Allah. Like Christianity, Islam is a monotheistic religion, acknowledging only one God. Though the Quran mentions both Mary and Jesus respectfully, it states that Jesus was another prophet and not the Son of God or divine. the new medieval world. The end of the Western Roman Empire meant that the political unity of Europe had collapsed. In response, the German tribes formed their own kingdoms. The kings had limited power, so relied upon the loyalty of local landowners called lords. The rise of the medieval church. The main source of continuity from Roman to medieval times was the church. The Catholic Church had arranged diplomatic meetings with the leaders of Barbarian tribes before the fall of Rome. It also sent waves of missionaries into German tribal areas successfully. The leader of the church, the Pope, became a symbol of unity in a time of great disruption. Charlemagne the Warrior, who was born in 742, actually died in 814. A German prince called Charlemagne was determined to unite the different kingdoms of Europe. He was famous for his athleticism and intelligence. Like most leaders, he was literate. He slept with a book under his pillow in the hope of absorbing the ability to read. Now, once again, he was illiterate and he couldn't read, right? So starting in 774, he embarked on over 50 military campaigns. In 779, Pope Leo III was driven out of Rome by an angry mob who were angered by his common birth and accused him of adultery and perjury. Charlemagne sent an army to protect the Pope. In return, the grateful Pope named Charlemagne the head of the Holy Roman Empire. Charlemagne the Great. Charlemagne's empire, known as the Carolingian Empire, was the largest since the Roman Empire. Charlemagne refused to allow any of his 5 daughters to wed in case their husbands attempted to remove him. Now, Carolingian just means descendants of Charles. The first Charles was Charles Martel, the grandfather of Charlemagne. The empire was named after this common family name. Some of the Charles which followed after the death of Charlemagne included Charles the Fat, Charles the Bald, and Charles the Simple. It's not the Middle Ages as we know it. For the first 500 years of the Middle Ages, there were no large castles or knights in shining armor. Those developed in response to 3 waves of invasions that were so terrifying they completely changed how medieval society was organized. The 3 invasions came from completely different societies and effectively surrounded the kingdoms of mainland Western Europe. They happened during the 800s and 900s. Can you guess the 3 types of invaders? Kill the myth. For the first 500 years of the Middle Ages, the sight of a man in armor on a horse would be like seeing a transformer in battle today. The Vikings came from Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. Due to overpopulation and the harshness of their rocky and cold environments, they set out on a series of raids. Their brutality and speed of their attacks made them the most feared threats to Western Europe. The goals of their invasions differed. In some areas, they simply raided monasteries and towns and carried off the treasures, food, women, and slaves they needed. In other cases, such as the region called Normandy, they settled permanently. The 3 invasions. The Vikings. Fast facts. The Vikings never wore horned helmets. They managed to travel as far as North America. Viking mythology gave us the superhero Thor. The D-Day landing in World War II took place at Normandy. Normandy was named after the Northmen, the Vikings. They forced one of the Charleses, Charles the Simple, to give them the land in 911 in return for an end to raids on neighboring land. The 3 invasions. The Islamic. As the Vikings attacked the north and coastal Europe, Islamic raids attacked the south. Muslim forces controlled the lands of Sicily and the Mediterranean and southern Spain. They used fortresses in these regions to attack Western Europe. Fortresses were also built in France so merchants could be raided. Muslim forces besieged Rome in 846 and plundered the cathedrals of St. Peter and Paul, although they never raided the city itself. They also destroyed a religious center at Monte Cassino. The former Eastern Roman Empire, Byzantine, had to deal with repeated raids because it was so close to the Middle East. Now the Byzantine Empire suffered the most from Muslim raids. These conflicts were part of the reason for the Crusades, which began in 1096. Sarkistan was the name given to the Muslim raiders. It just means Easterners. The 3 invasions. The Magyars. The Magyars originally came from Western Russia, like another barbarian tribe, the Huns. They were excellent horsemen and could shoot arrows while riding. They carried out a series of raids and managed to leave a path of destruction from Eastern Europe to southern Germany. Their invasions were stopped in 955 when a German king called Otto the Great defeated them. Here's what they look like. They threatened from all sides: the north, the south, and the east. The medieval response was feudalism. The waves of invaders and raiders during the 800s and 900s made control difficult. A system based on local power and local loyalty emerged. This was known as feudalism. Feudalism, a political and social system that tied together kings, lords, and peasants in a relationship based upon loyalty and land. That's what it looks like. You have this as well, where the king, the barons, the knights, and peasants are all related. From land, to loyalty to loyalty to loyalty. The knights emerged. The feudalism was a way to provide protection and security quickly. Had one key weakness. The whole system relied upon having land to give to people in return for loyalty. This hunger for land, along with the invasions, resulted in a medieval army race to produce the strongest military and defenses. In this context, the creation of heavily armed knights, now used in the stirrups, and castles developed. From parts of a castle. Either an outdoor kitchen, turret, the keep, as it's called, the curtain wall, flanking tower, the well, the gatehouse, and the bailey there. All right. Problem with knights. Throughout the Middle Ages, the knight's armor got heavier and more effective. On horseback, the medieval knight was a devastating weapon. On foot, the weight of the armor between 44 and 88 pounds made it difficult to move. In training, their training improved as jousting competitions were introduced. As their armor and skills improved, violent conflicts over land made travel unsafe for merchants and peasants. The Catholic Church was so concerned about the violence it passed the Truce of God in 1027 to reduce bloodshed. However, the start of the Crusades in 1096 offered a new opportunity to channel the aggression of the knights.